9명 정도 왔고요. 다른 친구들 많이 참여해야 되는데, 오늘은 얼른 시작하도록 할게요. 자, 오늘이 3주째잖아요? 3주는 황금비율에 대해서 할 거예요. 여기 황금비율, 음악을 조금 줄이고, 네. 자, 황금비율이 왜 중요하냐면, 이 황금비율에 따라서 사람이나 사물이나 디자인할 때 얼마나 아름답게 보이느냐가 달라져요. 인간이 어떤 사물을 볼 때 가장 아름답다고 생각하는 기준을 알아봤더니 황금비율이라고 하더라고요. 이 황금비율. 1대 1.61 굉장히 아름답다고 합니다. 2대 3, 3대 5, 5대 7 이렇게 나가고요. 오늘은 이제 황금 비율에 대해서 알아보도록 할 거예요. 그래서 이 황금 비율에 관련된 영상을 보면서 여러분들도 생각도 지식도 정리해보고 생각도 해보는 시간을 갖도록 할 거예요. 자, 관련 영상을 좀 공유해서 보여드리도록 할게요. 참 지난주 수업 보니까 뷰티일러스트레이션의 역사 거기에서 카웃 과제 냈었잖아요. 카웃 과제 보니까 자, 화면 공유 할게요. 화면 공유. 자, 화면 잘 보이시나요? 네. 지난주에 여러분들이 뷰티 일러스트레이션의 역사에 대해서 공부를 했어요. 그쵸? 공부를 하고 제가 과제를 내서 카웃을 풀어보라고 했는데 여기 완료 버튼을 안 눌렀는지 할당만 되고 완료된 친구는 하나도 없어서 내가 깜짝 놀랐어요. 근데 보니까 문제는 많이 풀으셨더라고요. 보니까 자, 볼게요. 자, 스팀판, 바니를, 네. 색조항하고 재배도 맡았는데요. 자, 3등이 슈팅판. 자, 2등이 바미르인가요? 바미르. 1등이 제네? 이름이 어떻게 되지? 바미. 2등이 바미. 자퇴로인가? 잠깐만, 이름이. 제라? 자나이데? 자나이데. 1등이 자나이데다. 자나이데. 맞죠? 자부림용 이제 들었네. 네. 우리 지금 확인되고 있지 않은 친구들이 막 들어왔어요. 되네. 생문, 제테로, 제뇌, 자생뇌, 뺨이. 지금 지난주 퀴즈에서 스팅반이 3등, 바미르 2등, 바미, 그 다음에 1등, 자나이데. 뭐 이름이 익숙치 않아요. 자나이데 맞죠? 자나이데 왔고, 밤이 왔고, 슈팅반이 안 들어왔네? 3등 한 슈팅반 들어왔어요? 슈팅반 아, 슈팅반이 잠비르운동하고 같이 해요. 우리 이렇게, 점수가 높은 이 친구들은 제가 오늘 4월 1일자로, 기프트콘을 쏠게요. 기프트콘. 지난주에도 받은 친구도 있을 거예요. 그쵸? 아, 대답을 안 해, 채팅방에. 듣고 있어요? 자, 자체로인가
네,
보다.
듣고 있어.
아, 네. 내가 오늘 선물을 쓴다니까? 안 기뻐요?
전 선물 없어.
그니까 이겨야지. 슈팅.
다음에 최선하겠습니다.
다음에는 3등 안에 들어가세요.
네,
감히 1등, 자나이대. 예, 기프트콘 선물 들어갑니다. 자, 과제랑 수업 열심히 들어오시면, 제가 기프트콘 드릴 거예요. 근데 과제를 했어도 수업을 안 들어온다든지, 수업을 들어왔는데 과제를 안 하면 제가 선물을 못 드려요. 아셨죠? 대답이 없어. 아, 이렇게 왜 이상한 저기로 들어온 친구들이 많지? 어, 나갔다 들어갔다 하나? 왜 숫자는 늘었지 않았는데 친구들이 왜 이렇게 새로 들어온 친구들이 많죠? 자, 일단, 이번 주에 수업할 내용을 보여드리도록 할게요. 자, 보시면 오늘 황금 비율에 대해서 공부를 해볼 건데요. 우리가 이제 얼굴을 그릴 거예요. 근데 이제 선연습부터 해야 되는데, 실습을 못하니까 좀 안타깝긴 하죠. 우리 여기 얼굴을 보시면, 자, 이게 이제 얼굴이에요, 얼굴. 네.
네,
핸드폰으로 잘 보이시죠?
네.
네. 우리 얼굴은, 가장 이상적으로 예뻐 보인다고 하는 얼굴은, 이 얼굴이 황금 비율로 딱 이루어져 있어요. 아까 내가 얘기했던 것처럼, 1대 1.617 땡땡땡 이런 비율로 황금 비율로 이루어진 비율이 다 됐는데 어디에서나 얼굴 어디에서나 적용이 돼요. 얼굴 전체에서 3등분 했을 때 눈의 사이즈, 눈썹의 길이, 그 다음에 코의 길이라든지 입술과 입술 산의 차이라든지 이 비율들, 윗입술과 아랫입술의 비율이라든지 이런 것들이 정확하게 황금 비율로 아름답게 이루어져 있다는 것이 이제 황금 비율인데 보통 유명 연예인들이나 헐리우드 스타나 미인대회에 가서 1등을 받은 친구들은 정확히 이 황금 비율 안에 얼굴이 눈, 코, 입, 눈썹, 얼굴 사이즈 모든 것들이 다 황금 비율로 되어 있다고 해요. 그 외에 평범한 사람들은 얼굴이 크거나 코가 더 길거나 짧거나 눈이 작거나 입이 크거나 입이 더 작거나 뭐 이마가 좁거나 이렇게 개성들이 강한 얼굴이 되는 거고 일반적으로 모든 사람이 봤을 때 아름답다고 하는 얼굴은 모든 얼굴의 구조나 전체 비례들이 다 황금 비율로 되어 있어요. 그래서 우리 이제 눈 사이즈하고 눈썹 길이에 대한 설명인데 요것도 눈썹 시작점과 코 시작점을 눈에 연결시켰을 때 눈썹의 길이는 정확히 이렇게 45도 각도로 해서 이루어진다는 거. 눈의 길이와 눈썹의 길이도 황금 비율로 되어 있다는 거. 이런 것들을 이제 공부를 해볼 거예요. 그래서 이게 이제 얼굴의 균형도인데 전체적으로 얼굴이 세로로 분할할 때는 이마 3분의 1, 코 3분의 1, 코에서 턱까지 3분의 1. 그리고 가로 분할을 했을 때는 눈 한 칸의 사이즈가 눈과 눈 사이의 사이즈가 돼요. 그래서 눈 크기 한 칸이 한 칸, 두 칸, 세 칸, 네 칸, 이렇게 5칸 해서 5등분으로 이루어질 수 있다라는 거. 이런 것들도 공부를 해서 그 눈의 얼굴의 균형도를 그려볼 거고요. 이제 이건 제가 수업 시간에 학생들을 설명시키기 위해서 그렸던 얼굴의 분할도 모습이에요. 자, 요거는 참고로 보시고 오늘은 EBS에서 만든 황금 비율의 비밀이라는 요 영상을 한번 같이 보시고 그 황금 비율의 비밀에 대해서 한번 생각해보는 시간과 퀴즈를 내도록 할게요. 자, 같이 시청하시게요.
네.
네. 자, 처음부터 교수님이 황금 비율에 대해서 수업을 했었거든.
이제 시작했어요.
잠깐만.
문제가
요거여야 되는데.
친구들도 있으니까 한번
이거 맞는데? 잠깐만. 이거 전체를 보면 되는데. 이거 맞긴 맞네. 잠깐만. 제가 원하는 딱 그건 아닌데? 이거 맞지? 아까 봤던 거.
놀라운
이게
배우의
전체적으로
사진을
이렇게
수습된 거라고 합니다.
It says I can control.
이게 맞긴 한데, 네, 드라이브에 있는 걸 인간의 얼굴. 맞아. 인간의 얼굴 이걸 봐야 돼. 위. 네. 이걸 보여줘야 되는데. 잠깐만 다시 공유해 줄게요.
Good evening. Tonight's program is on the human face, and so am I, because this is a human face that I'm standing on. The BBC has miniaturized me at enormous expense, by BBC standards, of course, so that we can take an even closer look than usual at the subject of beauty. Hello? And the question
엘자베스 홀이에요.
tonight is, what is beauty, and is it in the eye of the beholder? So let's start by asking some babies.
너무 귀여워.
From our earliest days, we appreciate beauty. Research has shown babies spend longer looking at adults with smooth skin, big eyes, and full lips. And they don't like uglies. The fact that the tiniest babies are drawn to beautiful faces shows how much beauty matters to us human beings. For instance, the face I'm standing on this evening belongs to Elizabeth Hurley. Good evening.
한때 엘리자베스 아덴 화장품 모델이었죠?
Do the show if she looked like this. Beauty does matter, but the odd thing is, it matters even more than we consciously realize.
You know, professionally and personally, it gets you in almost every door.
If they think you're the most stylish man or the most handsome man, then
피아스
related to
브로너스.
work,
굉장히 잘생긴 미국 할리우드 안 배우죠?
fact of our society that looks are important. Anyone that doesn't believe it, no, these women that say, I keep a clean house, he loves me. No woman's husband ever came home and said, "Ah, the floor's immaculate, lie down, you hot slut." Never happens.
All the studies show that beautiful people get better jobs and earn more money. Appearances even matter when it comes to getting the top job. For example, which of these two men would you vote for? In September 1960, John Kennedy and Richard Nixon appeared on radio and television, battling for the presidency.
I believe the program that Senator Kennedy advocates will have a tendency to stifle those creative energies.
I really don't need Mr. Nixon to tell me about what my responsibilities are as a citizen.
People who listened to the debate on the radio thought that Nixon had won, but people who watched it on television disagreed. Nixon's sweat and his 5 o'clock shadow put them off, and they pronounced Kennedy the winner. Nixon had refused makeup, saying it was for gays. If you have beauty, it brings many hidden advantages. But what gives it this extraordinary power? After all, Helen of Troy didn't just win the Miss Peloponnese title. She started a 9-year war. Let's start by saying what most people think.
Well, I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, I can think of some very beautiful actresses or models who I think are fabulous, and I can say to a boy, "Oh my God, she's gorgeous." I can't stand her. I hate those big lips. She's way too thin. But I generally think she's gorgeous.
How do supermodels like Kate Moss affect you? Because the fashion industry is unanimous.
Somebody like Kate's face is incredible because her bone structure just, bowls you over. She has got such fabulous bone structure. So as far as a canvas for a makeup artist to make her up, and she's just so desperately photogenic as well.
Sarah Dukas is head of the Storm Model Agency. She discovered Kate Moss, and she's acknowledged as an expert at spotting the next fashionable face. She believes that ideas of beauty change all the time.
It's very fast flowing. I mean, we find a lot of faces and they are fashionable for a moment. We're constantly looking for new faces. But it's become voracious.
It doesn't get more voracious than this. 700 entries in the competition to find a new face for the agency.
When it all started 10, 15 years ago, the faces started to look very unconventional. You used to hear people say, "She's hideous." I think that girl is really quite ugly. I think, the general public were probably quite aghast at some of the strange faces in magazines like The Face, for example. But I think gradually, obviously, it gets inside one, and it's what we consider is beautiful.
Today, Sarah is face-to-face with the 10 finalists she's selected. She's looking for the next beautiful face that will work for the fashion industry. This is Zara, aged 17. This is Samantha, aged 16. Laura, aged 18. Rachel, aged 18. So, who will they go for, and why?
Eyes should be wide spaced. You can't have a weak jaw.
Okay.
You can't have a sort of flat nose because the light hits it and you end up with a banana. I love the nose and the mouth. It's slightly imbalanced. It's slight. Do you know what I mean? The eyes are slightly smaller, but she's just got such an interesting.
Very nice.
Do you think she's a possible?
I'm still
Yours.
thinking back to Rachel. I don't know, it's just something about her.
I know she's serene and beautiful. Although she's terribly pretty and she's beautiful, she's got a very.
There's some disagreement about who is more beautiful, Rachel or Zara.
Yeah, it's not as interesting, I would say.
It hasn't just got as much sort of depth. Whereas somebody like Zara, it's got such good structure in place. The camera just loves her face.
They've chosen Zara. Would you have? Apart from a big hooter, cross eyes, or missing teeth, the widely held view in the fashion industry seems to be that beauty is what the fashion industry says it is. But I suspect there's more to beauty than that. So, what can we say about this potent force in our lives? Well, here's a starting point. Look at the face I'm standing on. Now, whether you think Elizabeth Hurley is extraordinarily pretty or stunningly beautiful isn't worth arguing about, because very few people are going to maintain that she's a total dog.
Thanks, John.
Not at all, Elizabeth. and welcome to the show. Now, this gives us a clue to what scientists have been discovering. Many scientists think that far from being simply a matter of personal taste, there are universal rules for beauty, patterns that beautiful people have in common, something that can even be measured. Well, these five look very different to me. So the grid facial surgeon Dr. Stephen Marquardt has spent over 25 years almost obsessively searching for the rules that govern beauty.
My job was to make faces more attractive, either that were deformed from birth or in car accidents, those kinds of things. I noticed most of the patients did look more attractive when I was done. A few looked about the same, and occasionally they wouldn't look as good. And that was very distressing, as you can imagine. Particularly, some of the operations were 9 hours in length, and to operate that long and have, we always would fix the functional problem, but to have them not look as good was extremely disappointing.
So what did that make you feel?
It made me wonder what attractiveness was. I was doing the same thing for everyone.
Hoping to find some clues to the rules which govern beauty, Stephen Marquardt went out and asked people who worked in the beauty industry.
So I just started canvassing different people that I knew in those industries, and it was pathetic. I couldn't believe it. Nobody knew what beauty was. Nobody could understand it. Everybody had a different idea. Everybody had an opinion about what beauty was, and a lot of people's opinion was it's kind of a ethereal oneness with the universe, if you will. And when they told me ethereal oneness with the universe, it's like, hey, whoa, wait a minute, I'm a surgeon. That's not going to help me out. So I kept looking.
Stephen wanted to see if people could agree on anything about beauty, so he did his own study. He got photographs of 18 very different women, and then asked people from all over the world to say which they found more and less attractive.
We would have people rank these 18 faces according to what they thought was most attractive to least attractive. They found the faces up here most attractive. And as we came down here, they found them less and less attractive until we get down this area, when they found them barely human looking. Some of these patients were taken out of medical textbooks that were published years and years ago, and today no one would ever get this bad before they were treated. These are all real people. They're all women between the ages of about 14 and 24 to 30. This is the entire range of human visual appearance of the faces, and we try to include everything in our study. And astoundingly, everybody in the world, within about 97%, ranked these 18 photographs exactly the same. We thought people from Asia would have a different concept, but it was very consistent all through the world. It didn't make any difference when somebody was 4 years old or 80 years old. They ranked them the same. It was just astounding.
What this study suggests is that there are some things we can all agree on, some universal rules of beauty. So what are some of these universal factors that hold true for all beauty? Let's start by looking at babies.
Babies seem to generally be considered very attractive. So I started studying babies' faces, and I wondered if there was an ideal face for a baby. It turned out there is. There is an archetypal face, not only for the adult, there is one for the infant, too.
But baby's beauty is quite different from adult beauty. This baby looks wrong, doesn't he? It's because he's got an adult face on a baby's body. For some reason, the medieval artist Giotto didn't give this face a baby's proportions. Babies judged attractive tend to have plump cheeks, rosebud lips, and enormous eyes, all scrunched up together in the center of the face. It's these proportions that release our protective instincts. Oh. Yes, he's not quite what I'm looking for.
Oh dear. Well, what about this one?
No, I don't think so.
How about this?
Sorry to be difficult, but it's not right.
Well, I don't think I have anything else. Unless this appeals to you at all.
Now that is beautiful. Oh, I love the way he dribbles. Does he hunt? No. Good, because I can't wait to protect him. Oh. It's that helpless, nurture-me look that men eventually learn is what makes babies attractive. What's certainly true is that good-looking babies often stay good-looking.
Out of earshot, I could hear people, the grown-ups saying, "Oh, he's very good-looking. He's just like his father. He's just like his
What
father."
was that? When do you remember that?
I think I was probably 4, 5. You didn't understand it, but there was something about your look. There was something that was right about you.
Crystal's here today from
Look at these teenagers. The baby face features, large eyes, rounded cheeks, and full lips are still judged attractive, but a lot's changed.
They become attractive in a different way, not in a parental nurturing way, but in a sexually attractive way for a mate.
When did you realize that you were beautiful?
I realized that other people thought I was beautiful. Around 13 or 14, I started noticing that the behavior of others around me changed.
If we're talking about female beauty and standards of female attractiveness, the two largest predictors are youth and health.
Dr. David Buss studies human mating behavior.
Things like clear skin, smooth skin, full lips, because lips, most people don't know this, lips get thinner as you age, and so full lips is a sign of youth, also a sign of health.
Stephen Marquardt suggests there may be an age range of maximum beauty.
There's a certain window during our life when we're most attractive, particularly women, and that's about between the ages of 14 and 24. That's the start menstruating at 14, they're ready to reproduce, and that correlates and coincides with their highest window of attractiveness, physically and particularly facially.
I don't think that's true at all in girls or boys as it happens, because it's a different, it's a sweet puppyish sort of prettiness when you're very young, but you know, it doesn't really move you. I don't think it's sweet. I think I got prettier in my late 20s, certainly, than in my early 20s. Whereas, you know, convention would have it, you look at your best when you're 17, then go off the boil from then on.
Scientists, however, suggest that although there may be individual differences, basically, youthful features advertise sex. Sex, of course, advertises products. This is Zara, who you'll remember was plucked out of obscurity to be a new fashion model.
I got a letter through the post, which was harsh because I didn't know whether to open it or not. First letters I saw was, "I hope you're alright," so I was like, oh, what's this going to be, you know? And it's just, "Congratulations" in big black capital letters.
Zara's now much in demand, but why? What is it about her face that people find so compelling? The scientist, Dr. Stephen Marquardt, thinks he knows.
The question is going to come up for you with people. What is attractive about you? You are attractive, and people will tell you're attractive. And the reason you're attractive is you have the components of both the adult beautiful face and the baby's beautiful face, which is really interesting. It's very unusual. What it does is incorporate adult beauty of the high cheekbones and a pretty nose, nice shape, and a nice forehead, a nice jawline, but also the slightly retruded chin and the cupid's bow upper lip. She has a very short upper lip like a baby, and a cupid's bow upper lip like a baby, and a retruded chin of a baby, and the lower jaw features of an infant, which is very attractive, combined with the adult features of the high cheekbones, pretty nose, beautiful skin, and big eyes.
Thank you. I've always thought I've had really peaky eyes, little eyes, and big lips. I used to hate my lips when I was younger, and everyone used to call me Joker at school because I smiled. Can you see that? I used to get picked on.
They're smart as well.
So how beautiful do you consider Zara? Well, before you decide, let's hear some other theories about beauty.
To our smile.
All Almost all scientific theories about beauty are based on so-called evolutionary psychology. The idea is that much human behavior is subconsciously driven by our animal past. For all our apparent sophistication, we are deep down creatures driven by a fairly basic biological urge to mate and to have offspring. But how well does this theory explain human behavior connected with beauty? Well, looking down at Elizabeth's face makes me think of makeup. That's enough of that. Human beings have been using makeup for over 4,000 years, so they must have developed some inkling of what they're trying to achieve with it, what buttons they're trying to press. Even in ancient Egypt, women were already using the same techniques they do today. They enhanced their eyes with coal and used iron and copper ores to decorate their face. Dermatologist Dr. Vale Reese thinks makeup has one main purpose.
Well, makeup really tries to minimize any discoloration of the skin, any irregular contour, and then better allow attention to be drawn to certain features, such as the eyes or the lips, which we as humans want to accentuate, or at least in women at least.
You put on the base to sort of even everything out, and it's like making a flat, clean canvas, and then you start painting.
So how do we paint features and why? Well, eye makeup can make the eyes look bigger and therefore younger and sexier. Also, darkening the upper lids can produce so-called bedroom eyes.
Why do bedroom eyes exist? Why do we associate that with sexiness? It's because in the last stage of sexual encounters, a moment or two before our orgasm, one of the muscles that keeps the upper eyelid up relaxes and the eyes begin to droop. So someone who has bedroom eyes, in a sense, looks like they're always on the verge of orgasm. That is, we're extending.
It's a permanent characteristic that reminds us of the way we look at that particular moment
without
just
thinking about it.
Next, lipstick. Psychologists argue that when you get aroused, your lips get fuller and redder, and that's what red lipstick is trying to mimic. When people are sexually aroused, the psychologists tell me, the lips, for example, will not only get larger, they're becoming engorged, more blood in the lips, so they actually get a darker color.
You read Desmond Morris on that, didn't you?
Yeah, some of it. Well, I didn't know whether all of that was right, but what I was talking about is just the fact that...
Yeah, I think it's not rubbish.
You think it's rubbish?
Absolute rubbish. He said that women do red lips that's mirroring the red vulvas of chimpanzees when they're in heat.
Yeah, well, it's obvious. Some evolutionary biology may be bollocks, but I do believe that makeup helps advertise fertility by emphasizing youth and health. And the link between beauty and health turns out to be much closer than I'd ever imagined. Just look at those hurdlers. Ever wondered why top athletes tend to be good looking? Professor John Manning is doing research which links looks with running ability. And he's doing it here by measuring ears.
Yeah, 8.02. Well, our research is concentrated on athletic ability and what the face tells us about that.
The link which ties athletic ability to beauty in Professor Manning's research is symmetry.
It's 68.77.
Whether the two sides of your face are the same or very different seems to affect your running ability.
His left ear is 67.62. Runners with asymmetric ears run more slowly than runners with symmetric ears. And this is not a question of wind speed, aerodynamic aspects of the face.
So what's going on here? Well, people with symmetrical bodies find it easier to run faster. And having more symmetrical ears is a sign you've got a more symmetrical body.
This is amazing when you think about it, because these asymmetries are very, very small. They're of the order of a millimeter or so. But we seem to be able to perceive them, and people rate symmetric faces as being more attractive than asymmetric faces.
Do you agree? How do you prefer me? Normal like this, or symmetrical like this? And what's the big thing about symmetry? Well, it all begins in the womb. We all start off looking like aliens, but we're programmed to grow symmetrically. So, if all goes well, we turn into pretty symmetrical adults. But things can go wrong.
Now, obviously, a symmetrical face is typically a healthy face. But if you have a parasitic infection, or if you have congenital malformation of some kind that's distorted your face, it's going to produce an asymmetry. And when you detect something asymmetrical, it's no longer attractive. And you don't want to mate with it.
What neurologist Dr. Ramachandran is saying is that if you're unfortunate enough to have been infested with a parasite, such as a tapeworm, and it's residing inside you when you're growing up, then this will affect not only your bodily health, but also your face.
If you have a parasitic infection, you may not be very fertile. For all of these reasons, it's best to avoid an asymmetrical face. And this may be one reason why you have this repulsion. So you recoil from anything that's deformed, asymmetrical, distorted.
Because it could be dangerous.
Because it could be dangerous.
In a more primitive sense, the face advertises health. Okay, any doctor will tell you one of the first things they teach you in medical school is to look at the face.
In Stephen Marquardt's study, the faces ranked good-looking were more symmetrical. The less attractive faces were less symmetrical. And the grossly asymmetric induced a feeling almost of repulsion. It's this innate reaction to faces that Hollywood has exploited.
You'll have the clear-complected individual as the hero. And then any skin defect can be used by filmmakers to identify to audiences, watch out for this one. So that skin really becomes a reflection not just of health, but of moral content.
I'm so unhappy. My stepmother and sister are going to the ball without me. I do wish I could go too.
And so you shall.
Who are you?
I'm your fairy godmother, dear. I've got a heart of gold.
I don't trust you. You're hideous.
This is facial fascism.
Poor woman. It's true that people with bad skin are not evil. I mean, you and I both know that rationally.
Yeah.
But they have done studies to show that they would take subjects and have them interact with someone who is clear-complected or interact with someone, say, with acne scars or a large scar, that there was more hesitation, there was more concern, more fear associated with the people that did not have normal skin or good skin.
Henry de Lobinia has facial cancer. He knows what it's like to be stared at and judged by others. But he's very philosophical about the way he looks, and he's not upset by the honest reactions of children.
I find it extremely entertaining talking to a 5-year-old about why I'm only got one eye, or look slightly odd. And I've always been impressed by the simple way that the 5-year-old is just interested and enjoys the conversation on the bus with a complete stranger about what it's like to have only one eye.
This is Henry at 21 when he was studying to become a barrister, and he's still working.
If I went in some absolutely extreme state, then it might be different. But certainly, having an eye removed, having the shape looking a bit odd, losing all the nerves and muscles in the left-hand side of my face, so that when I smile in a happy way, as I understand it, the right-hand side of my face moves, but the left hand doesn't move a bit. It simply, for some reason, doesn't worry me.
Henry was 42 when he first discovered that he had a rare facial cancer. It started under his left eye and gradually progressed. Henry's proud to have a family who supported him through all his surgery.
I mean, my wife and children don't appear to pay any attention to what I look like. They don't get worried. They don't express relief that I'm not too bad. And I think that helps me as the patient enormously, because I'm not being reminded of it. I don't have people sympathising. I don't have people saying I wish they'd done a better job. And that leaves me just being me.
Possibly the gradual change in his appearance made it slightly easier for Henry and his family to deal with. A sudden change can be traumatic in a different way. Dr. Stephen Marquardt was only 4 years old when his mother's face was badly damaged in a car accident.
My grandmother and aunt just took me in, and actually, you know, I was walking ahead of them down the hallway of my grandmother's house. My mother walked out of the bedroom she was staying in at the time, and her eyes were all bloodshot, her nose was squashed on her face, she had no upper teeth, her jaws were wired together, and her face was all cut and sutured up, and she looked like a monster. And I just about had a heart attack. I turned around, and then she mumbled, "Stevie," you know, hi, through her wired jaws, and I turned around and ran out of the room screaming. I didn't trust my grandmother or my aunt or my uncles or anybody for several weeks after that. I wouldn't have anything to do with them. She wasn't my mother anymore. She didn't act the same. She didn't look the same. She didn't talk the same. It was just, and then everybody said, "This is your mother." And it was very difficult. It was at 4.5, at that point, or 5 years old. It was like, "Here's your mother back. Have a nice day." Interestingly, the surgeon who did take care of her at the time of her accident was a maxillofacial surgeon like I was. And I think that probably at some point level, maybe that's why I got into it. Life is a crazy thing. Crazy things happen. And sometimes you don't realize where you've been until you look in your rearview mirror, you know.
Stephen's childhood experience not only led him into a career as a surgeon, it also motivated his search for the rules of beauty. And he found his first clues in the writings of a Greek philosopher. Remember Pythagoras?
The square of the hypotenuse of a right-angled triangle is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, him.
He claimed not only to quantify or to understand the secret or the code of beauty, he claimed to see beauty in the universe. That's a pretty big statement. I'm looking for beauty in the face. He says he found it for the universe. That's pretty amazing.
What Pythagoras realized is that plants and animals grow according to fairly precise mathematical laws. It's not just chance that flowers unfold in beautiful patterns. And the Greeks found the patterns were based on a particular geometrical ratio. But it wasn't until the Renaissance that an Italian did the maths. He figured out that the key to beauty was the ratio of 1 to 1.618. Grazie. Oh, Miss Linguini, wait. Take your glasses off. Now let your hair come tumbling down. Miss Linguini, you're beautiful. And yet, and you're not going to believe this, 1.618 actually works. Do something like measure the distance from the floor to your navel, and then from your navel to your head. If you're well proportioned, the ratio should be 1 to 1.618, and that ratio is seen all over the beautiful body.
People started noticing it. Artists noticed that the width of the mouth in a beautiful face, for example. Yeah. Not in any face, but it had to be beautiful. If a face was beautiful, the width of the mouth was exactly 1.618 times the width of the nose. Right. If the face wasn't beautiful, that wasn't the case. Dentists, in their dental work, noticed that the upper front tooth was 1.618 times as wide as the next tooth over, the lateral incisor. Oh. So the central incisor was 1.618 times the width of the lateral incisor, the next tooth over.
Wonderful. Give me some more examples.
Your fingers, your fingers are each called phalanges, and each bone of the finger is called a phalanx. And the phalanx that's the closest to your knuckle here is 1.618 times the phalanx that's in the middle, and that's 1.618 times the length of the phalanx at the end, which is your fingernail. So that was kind of amazing. This number would come up over and over again.
Now remember, Zara, Will all this theory work on a real person like her?
This is what's called a golden divider. It divides different line areas or distances from into 1 and 1.618, which is the golden ratio. And in a beautiful face, we'll see that ordinarily the width of the mouth is 1.618 times the width of the nose. It does, Zara. Exactly. If we look at the teeth, we can see that ordinarily, show me your teeth and smile a little bit. The width of the upper front tooth is 1.618 times the width of the tooth right next to it, and the same on the other side. The width of the upper front tooth is 1.618 times the tooth next to it. So it's amazing how this proportion is repeated over and over again in a beautiful face. And the same thing with Zara. If I do the width of her mouth, I'm sorry, I'll do it again. I'm a surgeon. I'm used to sharp things. I hardly ever cut myself. Okay, so if I do the width of her mouth or the width of her face, the camera should be able to see that this the width of the mouth is 1.618 times the distance from the mouth to the corner of the cheek.
And it is.
Anyway, this relationship holds up over and over again in the face. And Zara's a great example. That's why she's so pretty.
So Zara's face fits the golden ratio. And the golden ratio, 1 to 1.618, seems to apply to all beautiful faces. Now, this idea that maths can explain a beautiful face, any beautiful face, has been taken even further by Stephen Marquardt.
If I look at the nose is a triangle. On the front view, on the side view, the nose is a triangle again.
And in a beautiful face, the sides of the triangle are 1.618 times greater than the base. And from a triangle, you can build a pentagon.
What's the most attractive configuration of the face? The most attractive expression is smiling. Yeah. When I smile, you start to see the pentagon.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the.
Right, exactly.
Stephen Marquardt combined pentagons and triangles, all with the 1.618 ratio, and built a mask. He claims that the closer a face conforms to his mask, the more beautiful it is.
Start with Kate Moss.
All right.
You know, Kate looks totally different than the others. All right. But if I put the mask on her, see, that fits very closely. The interesting thing about Kate is that her eyes are preternaturally wide or unusually wide. Her eyebrows fit beautifully. Her lips, her nose, her jawline, very, very nice. Even if the hairline is exactly where it should be.
And it's not just women. The same mask can be put on men. And Tom Cruise fits it perfectly. In fact, Stephen claims it fits any human face so long as it's beautiful.
Here's one of my favorite actors, star of stage, screen, and television. Let me just see how he fits. Oh, what a handsome guy.
Oh, it's Paul Newman.
It is Paul Newman. Wait a moment. It's better than Paul Newman. It's John Cleese.
Don't tell me that.
My gosh.
You got a moustache grit. To my surprise, it didn't fit my face at all, though Stephen had a good excuse for me.
Quite frankly, it's very masculine. You'll see that in a man, the eyes are narrower.
The eyes are what?
The eyes are always narrower in a man. Your eyes are narrower than the grid. The lips are thinner, and you can see your lips are thinner here, and your nose is narrow just like the grid. And actually, your nose is a little shorter.
I should get along with it.
Which is good, actually.
Having discovered the mask, Dr. Marquardt was able to successfully use it as a template when reconstructing patients' facial deformities.
Okay, now Elizabeth Hurley, she's almost as good looking as you, but let's see. Oh my gosh, it's pretty darn close. The eyebrows are just on the upper edge of the mask, giving this nice arch. It looks beautiful.
Oh, don't tell us.
Yeah, terrible. It'll be our secret. The cheeks are perfect. The nose fits beautifully in there. The lips, the width of the lips is great. The lower lip has a beautiful curvature. The chin and jawline is great. Just remarkable how it fits.
So Elizabeth's face is absolutely perfect, apparently. Personally, I think her nose is a bit pointy, but...
John.
Not you, Elizabeth. Another Elizabeth. So, that's everything that we can say about beauty that's universally true. So now we need to look at all that stuff about beauty being in the eye of the beholder. Or, in this case, the beholder being in the eye of the beauty. In other words, stuff that varies from place to place and from era to era. Yes, folks, we're entering a world of fashion. Take the fashions in skin tone. For centuries in Europe, looking pale was extremely fashionable. Elizabeth I used a mixture of white lead and vinegar to look as pale as possible. Unfortunately, it was poisonous and had a tendency to run. Then, 400 years later, the suntan was suddenly in. Previously, it was a sign of a common type who worked outdoors with his hands. Yuck! But now a suntan meant you were wealthy enough to travel to the sun for your holidays.
The fact that so much film was made in Hollywood in the 50s and 60s had incredible influence internationally on the thought that a tan appearance was healthy and was good and was beautiful.
So the suntan came in, and now it's beginning to go out of fashion. But is there any more to it than just fashion? Dr. Ramachandran is bravely prepared to hazard a biological explanation for preferring pale skin.
Every medical student is taught that anemia, cyanosis, which means a bluish tint of the skin, and jaundice, which means a yellowish discoloration of the skin, is much easier to detect in a fair-skinned person, especially a blonde, than in a brunette. So from a distance of 20 feet, you can say if the blonde is anemic, because she's pale skin, whereas a brunette can disguise this fact and fool you. So in a sense, a brunette is saying, come and mate with me, but you don't know if she's anemic or not. Whereas a blonde, there's truth in advertising. The blonde is saying, look, I'm healthy and pink. Come and spread your genes. Mate with me.
So even a fashion like pale skin may have a biological underpinning. Take hair. A full head of lustrous hair is a sign of youth, vitality, and health. But the fashions in hairstyles change all the time, unpredictably. For example, in 1624, Louis XIII lost his hair and had to wear a wig. As he was king, the entire French court instantly followed the new fashion and soon developed it beyond recognition until the wigs became so large that some of them were sublet. Between the demands of fashion and the desire to obey our biological hardwiring, the need to present ourselves as youthful, healthy, and fertile, we all spend a huge fortune every year on our beauty. But is all this fuss about beauty really justified? Well, for young people, it makes a lot of sense. Essentially, what they're looking for is pretty basic.
When you're young, you don't care about mental beauty. My mother would always try to pick me up with the lady at church's daughter who was a great piano player. That's the last thing I wanted to do. Exactly, made her own clothes. Isn't that wonderful? She likes to read. Oh, great, Mom. I can't wait. So I was looking for a beautiful, a beautiful girl who was the prom queen. Exactly. I didn't care if she had a brain or not. I was just attracted to beauty, and young people are attracted to beauty.
So when you're young, looks are really important. But what happens when you grow a little older? When people are seeking a partner, a serious one, not a himbo or a bit of fluff, some flibbity-gibbet for a bit of fun on a Saturday night. So, what are the things that we're really looking for in a long-term partner?
My study of 37 cultures looks as about physical attractiveness as third or fourth in importance. Men, when they're doing mate selection, they look for partners who are intelligent, who are kind, who are understanding, who are dependable, who are attractive, but also who are healthy and emotionally stable. There are a large collage of characteristics that come into play in long-term mating that don't really come into play in short-term mating.
Thank you, darling. It's beautiful. Good, good, good. Is the other one for me, too?
No, that's for my mistress.
Mistress?
Mm-hmm.
You have a mistress? Mm-hmm. You never told me.
It's not important.
I didn't know you had a mistress.
Oh, I see her only, every 2 weeks? It's not important. It's only for sex. Just for sex.
Well, who is she? Anyone I know?
She's a showgirl. Morris has one too.
Your business partner has a mistress?
They're in the same show, Pulse so.
Can I see her?
Of course, if you're interested, why not? Why not?
Which one is she? Your mistress?
The brunette, third from the left.
And which is Morris's?
The blonde, the end.
Oh my God.
A man doesn't have to be good looking. A man needs personality and a big wallet. We all know this. Look at these men who marry these women. These little short, and they've got these gorgeous women, and they really think the girl likes them.
So, as we get older, we don't get quite so high on beauty. Here I am again, getting high on Elizabeth Hurley, about 5'6" high.
5'8", actually.
Oh, honestly, if I'd known she was going to be so touchy.
What?
Nothing.
John?
Later. So, if beauty gives us pleasure, how come then that it also makes people miserable?
Miserable?
Will you shut up, you old bat! Stop interrupting! Faces like hers are becoming a problem because... As I was going to say, faces like hers can be a problem if we compare our looks and then start feeling inadequate. Even attractive people sometimes find themselves doing this.
There's just posters of beautiful people everywhere. No one ugly.
Beauty used to be rare. Now it's everywhere. That's not helpful.
In ancestral times, in small group living, a man wouldn't have encountered very many attractive women. Basically, there would have been a dozen to 2 dozen potential mates to start with, only a few of whom would be very attractive.
And now we're surrounded by it.
Now we're surrounded by thousands and thousands, in some cases millions of potentially attractive partners. What that does to men is that it decreases the commitment that they feel toward their regular partner. And then they look at the models, they look at the regular mate, and they think, there's a better mate out there for me.
And even if you're lucky enough to be one of the beautiful people, there can be disadvantages. For example, if things come too easily, you may end up wondering if your looks are all there is to you.
When I was quite young, my father, he said, you know, Candy, he said, it's the beautiful women who are unhappy. It's the beautiful women who commit suicide. And I went, gee, well, I hope I don't get to be beautiful because that's going to be like a sort of death sentence. And he was sort of putting it, to say the least, rather dramatically, by way of saying it's really hard if you sort of hit 45 or 50 and then you think, oh, I have no personality. I'm going to have to make it on something else now. And then it's really hard to find a personality when you're that much older, because where do you look for one? You can't sort of borrow it.
You know, I always thought that I'd be a much more talented actor if I had a broken nose and I was a foot shorter. I just thought if I had that kind of squat burly thing going, I think I would be a lot more advanced in my technique of acting. And that's because of the shaming that goes on. Because the shaming.
Go on.
The shaming. When you feel that shaming of maybe that you are too good looking.
And it's a little bit of a gift anyway that you can't really take credit.
I mean, it pisses me off when they say I'm pretty.
What would it make you comfortable? Seriously.
Rugged.
Rugged?
Rugged. I always wanted to be rugged.
Well, would you like me to punch you now, love, on television? Settle all these problems of yours. And then you could become a seriously good actor.
I could just see this program coming on now.
That guy's always looking to piss me off. You know. Somebody once said that beauty is the passport to success, but it's not a passport, it's a visa. It expires. And if you've built your life on your beauty, what do you do when you begin to lose your looks? Well, you start thinking about plastic surgery.
No. I had my eyes, the bags taken out one of my eyes. I had a full facelift. I had breast lifted, and I had a face peel. And I'm looking for anything else.
Now, I don't have a tooth of my own left in my head, and I've had a couple of hair transplants. In fact, if I'd been living in 1500, I'd look like this by now. So I'm not pointing the finger at anyone who has cosmetic surgery, but I did hear one reason why maybe it's not such a great idea. It came from George Orwell, who once remarked, after the age of 40, a man is responsible for his face. In other words, if you're young, whether you're good looking or not, it's just the luck of the draw. But as you get older, your face begins to show the world what sort of person you are, because whatever your habitual expressions are, kind, cheerful, mournful, embittered, they start etching themselves onto your face. So then, your face starts telling people what sort of a human you are. Allowing this to happen may be what people mean by the phrase, growing old gracefully. So if you're beautiful as you get older, it's not a free gift. It's because your face shows qualities that are timeless and that we all admire. Strength, kindness, dedication, wisdom, enthusiasm and humor, intelligence, compassion. Now, those faces are achievements, whereas Elizabeth Hurley's, well, very nice to look at, of course, but it doesn't mean she isn't a total. We'll just have to wait to see. Good night. Elizabeth.
Good night.
네, 여러분들 잘 보셨나요? 이거 되게 유명한, 네, 되게 유명한 영상이라서 제가 꼭 보여드리고 싶어서 여러분들 보여드렸고요. 되게 이게 유명한, 통째로 다 봐도 정말 손색이 없습니다. 보는 동안 여러분들을 위해서 퀴즈를 드리겠어요. 그래서 퀴즈 카웃 풀어보시고, 네. 인간의 얼굴. 제가 영상하고 퀴즈하고 지금 다 올려놨으니까 여러분들 보시면 되게 도움이 많이 될 거고, 그 카웃 퀴즈는 지금 과제에다가 링크 추가했으니까요. 각자 풀어보시고, 제가 오늘 지난주 숙제 잘한 자매들 이 친구들은 기프트콘 선물로 나가도록 하겠습니다. 네. 이 질문 있을까요? 지금 과제는 금요일 밤까지 하도록 올려놨고요.
네.
퀴즈는 토요일 밤까지 풀 수 있게는 해놨어요. 그러니까 과제를 기한 내에 잘 풀어주시고 꼭 과제 다 했으면 제출 버튼.
네.
제출 버튼에다가 올려주시면 좋겠어요. 잠깐 보여드리면, 화면 공유를 해드리면, 퀴즈를 지금 했음에도 불구하고 하나도 안 했다고 되어 있거든요. 완료가 안 돼가지고 지금 한 명도 할당은 되는데 안 된 걸로 보여서 이거를 제출 버튼으로 바꿔주셔야 돼가지고 주셔야 돼요. 풀고 난 거를 캡처를 해서 올려주세요. 그 지난 것도 제가 새로 링크 걸어 드릴게요. 요거는 링크가 시간 제한이 있어서 이제 유용하지 않겠지만 못 풀거든요. 새로운 링크 걸어 둘 테니까 한 번 더 좋을 것 같아요. 네. 혹시 질문 있을까요?
네, 없습니다.
네. 우리 친구들 뭐 대중 왔다 갔다 한 친구도 있는 것 같아. 네. 그 수업 시간에 왔다 갔다 하시면 안 되고요. 정해진 시간에 다 나와서 수업 마무리하도록 할게요.
네.
네, 오늘도 고생하셨고요.
교수님 수고하셨습니다.
네, 여러분들 건강하게 마스크 잘 착용하시고 건강한 모습으로 또 다음 주에 만나도록 하겠습니다. 네. 네. 자, 그리고 오늘 황금비율을 마무리할게요. 황금비율은 나와요. 1.8입니다. 여러분들 기억해주세요. 네, 이거 꼭 나와요. 자, 그리고 황금비율을 최초로 만든 사람은 피타고라스예요. 피타고라스. 황금비율을 처음 발견한 사람, 학자면서, 이 사람은 수학자예요, 수학자. 모든 사물은 수학, 숫자로 되어 있어요. 그래서 1.298이라는 비율을 만들어낸 사람, 발견한 사람이 피타고라스예요. 그래서 피타고라스 정리라고 해요. 법칙이라고 하고. 자, 그래서 그리스 아테네 신전이나 피라미드 이런 신전들이나 피라미드들은 1.618이라는 황금 비율로 이루어져 있어요. 아시겠죠?
네.
그런 문제들이 거니까 잘 카운트로 잘 풀어주세요. 네, 문제 몇 개 알려드렸어요. 피타고라스. 1.618. 그리고 이 황금 비율은 일체 얼굴에만 있어요? 황금 비율은? 얼굴만 있는 게 아니라 다 적용이 됩니다. 손가락 마디마디 비디오 보셨잖아요. 손가락 마디마디 팔과 팔 요 부분과 요 부분 사이라든지 하반신과 하반신이라든지 모든 게 다 황금 비율로 아름답게 다 되어있고 꽃도 마찬가지고 자연의 모든 물질은 다 황금 비율로 아름답게 되어 있어요. 퀴즈 잘 풀어주시고요. 다음 주에 만나도록 할게요. 안녕.
네. 안녕히 가세요.
Attention please, attention. 안티를 video 체크하고. 안녕.
근데 그거 두 번째